evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Here are today's top stories. Authorities have identified the suspect and the 5 people who were killed in the deadly Wisconsin parade. At least 10 children injured in the attack are still in the ICU, and 6 of them are in critical condition. And Congress is on track to impose a new fee on methane emissions. Some say it will clean up the air and help the economy, and others say it could lead to even higher gas prices for Americans. Organized retail theft targeting several California stores over the weekend. As many as 80 people stole from one store. Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai has reappeared, smiling and giving assurances that everything is fine. But doubts remain as all information about her and her accusation of sexual misconduct against a top Chinese official is still censored in China. Despite high oil prices, most Americans are driving for Thanksgiving. Air travel is also rebounding to pre-pandemic levels. We have more updates on the deadly Christmas parade in Wisconsin. Authorities have identified the victims and the suspect. Many of the injured are still in hospitals, including over a dozen children. Some are as young as 3. NTD's Allison Lee brings us more.
This red SUV drove through barricades and a crowd of people marching in the Christmas parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin, Sunday afternoon. At least 5 people were killed and 48 were taken to hospitals.
18 kids were brought to our children's emergency department, ranging from ages 3 to 16 years of age, which include 3 sets of siblings. Injuries ranged from facial abrasions to broken bones to serious head injuries. 6 of these patients were sent to the operating room last night, and 2 additional patients are undergoing surgeries today.
6 children hospitalized at Children's Wisconsin are in critical condition. 2 children have been discharged. Police identified the people who were killed as 4 women and 1 man, ranging from 52 to 81 years old. They also identified the suspect as 39-year-old Daryl E. Brooks.
At this time, the Waukesha Police Department is referring 5 counts of first-degree intentional homicide with additional charges based on the investigation.
The police department confirmed that an officer shot at the vehicle to try to stop it. They also say they believe the suspect acted alone and is not linked to terrorism. The suspect was involved in a domestic disturbance, but police were not pursuing him leading up to the events at the parade.
We have information that the suspect prior to the incident was involved in a domestic disturbance, which was just minutes prior, and the suspect left that scene just prior to our arrival to that domestic disturbance.
President Biden also reacts to the event, saying his administration is monitoring the situation very closely.
We're all grateful for the extraordinary work of the first responders, from law enforcement to the emergency room doctors, who are working around the clock to deal with the terrible consequences of what happened last night.
The Waukesha School District canceled classes for Monday and Tuesday. Schools won't reopen until after the Thanksgiving holiday, and Wisconsin Governor Tony Evers ordered flags in his state to be flown at half-staff. Allison Lee, NTD News.
And President Biden has picked Fed Chair Jerome Powell, a Republican, to serve another 4-year term leading the nation's central bank. There was speculation Biden would choose Democrat Lael Brainard, but she's been put forward for vice chair instead. Brainard serves on the Fed's 7-member board of governors. Biden says he believes Powell is the right choice to help the American economy continue its recovery.
And I believe Jay is the right person to see us through and finish that effort, while also addressing the threat of inflation that it poses to our families and to our economy.
Powell was appointed Fed chief by President Trump and led the central bank's response to the economic fallout from the pandemic. But many say the Fed's massive stimulus helped push inflation to a 31-year high, with Powell taking heat from some Republicans for the central bank's easy money policies. Accepting the nomination, Powell says he's going to use the Fed's tools to keep supporting the economy.
We know that high inflation takes a toll on families, especially those less able to meet the higher costs of essentials like food, housing, and transportation. We will use our tools both to support the economy and a strong labor market and to prevent higher inflation from becoming entrenched.
The Fed has started phasing out the asset purchases that it started in response to the pandemic. And even though the president has nominated Powell, he'll still need to be confirmed by the Senate. But that's expected to go smoothly. A number of Republican senators have already said they'll vote yes. And the founder of Theranos voluntarily took the stand in her defense starting Friday. One expert said the move may make the prosecution's job easier. We hear more from NTD's David Lamb.
Elizabeth Holmes, the founder of now-defunct blood testing company Theranos, took the stand to defend herself in a San Jose court again on Monday. She is charged with defrauding both investors and patients. Her testimony continued through Monday.
Holmes taking the stand is incredibly surprising and very risky. Most likely, Holmes is thinking that she can garner sympathy with the jury by telling her own story in her own words.
On Friday, Holmes said that her work at Theranos led her to believe in the company's technology. Creel, an assistant professor of business law, told NTD that defendants are not required to take the stand in their own cases.
As soon as you get on there and decide to talk, the prosecution gets to drill into you with all sorts of questions that can go ahead and make you look a lot more guilty than you would if you just sat there quietly.
Holmes allegedly made false claims about her company's technology. The claims include that Theranos technology could use a drop of blood from a finger prick to run diagnostic tests more quickly and accurately than conventional laboratory tests. She has pleaded not guilty to 9 counts of wire fraud and 2 counts of conspiracy.
Sometimes investors look at a deal hoping that they will see the next unicorn or the next, Uber, the large thousands of % increase in value.
Brian, an investment expert, told NTD that the concept of Theranos' technology might have seemed too good to be true. Holmes had previously been praised as the Steve Jobs of biotech. Her stardom began to fade after the Wall Street Journal published a series of articles suggesting Theranos' devices were flawed and inaccurate. Theranos had been previously valued at $9 billion. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
Over the weekend, several smash and grab robberies targeted businesses in Northern California. The robberies are part of the organized retail crime epidemic. Here's NTD's Eileen Ang with more details.
This Lululemon in San Jose's Santana Row is the latest victim of smash and grab. Police informed me that a group of suspects entered the store at around 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. They got away with the merchandise before police could arrive. The investigation is still ongoing.
I saw a couple girls out here by the flowers recording the traffic, so I was thinking that maybe they were doing a recon for another mob hit over here. And then about an hour later, about 6:25, 6:30 p.m., I saw 2 girls dart from across the street over here, and then they dashed through here into Lululemon.
Grant was security for another store nearby. He told his store to lock up and close before heading over to Lululemon. By the time he got there, he said 8 people darted out of the store across the street to a getaway car.
And they dropped some merchandise, so I was able to recover some of it and bring it back to the store. And then I made sure that they were okay, because sometimes these gangs attack the store clerks.
Earlier that same night, a group of looters hit Southland Mall in Hayward at 5:30 p.m., breaking into Sam's Jewelers. The suspects ran off with stolen goods and fled in getaway cars. As he was cleaning his store, a spokesperson for Sam's Jewelers told us that the thieves took men's diamond rings, and gold gems. He said there were 8 to 10 people involved. They estimate a loss of $50,000 to $70,000. There were reports of Macy's getting ransacked too, but a spokesperson confirmed that the store was not impacted. Saturday saw a similar attack in Walnut Creek. In a video posted by another reporter, about 25 cars blocked the street and rushed into a Nordstrom store in Broadway Plaza. Police reported that 80 robbers entered the store at around 9 p.m. They put out warnings that evening to be prepared for the group to strike again. 2 employees were assaulted and 1 was pepper sprayed. 3 arrests have been made. On Friday night, the Louis Vuitton in San Francisco's Union Square was also robbed.
Unfortunately, it's become very easy to build a business model selling stolen goods online. And we've got to have better transparency on a lot of these online marketplaces, Amazon and Facebook, so that you can't hide behind a fake screen name and sell stolen product. Right now, it's too easy to sell stolen product online, and that's what's driving a lot of this theft.
During a press conference on Monday, Newsom said he intends to partner more closely with cities and counties to address the crimes.
We'll be stepping up those efforts in next year's budget substantially. And we have been working with cities up and down the state, including San Francisco, Walnut Creek, and others that were impacted over this weekend by these organized retail theft operations.
The weekend cases are part of a string of similarly coordinated smash and grab robberies plaguing the greater Bay Area. Last Tuesday, thieves broke into a Chinatown jewelry store in San Francisco, making off with about $250,000 in merchandise. A day before, thieves hit a store in Concord, neighboring the recently burgled Walnut Creek. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
Money doesn't grow on trees, but it can sometimes fall out of a truck on the freeway. That is exactly what happened in San Diego, California on Friday. We hear more from NTD's Cynthia Kai.
Dollar bills filled a Southern California freeway on Friday morning. A bag of cash fell out of an armored truck and rained $1 and $20 bills across Interstate 5, according to the San Diego Union Tribune. Authorities said the money filled the freeway around 9:15 in the morning. Now, in a viral video originally posted by Twitter user Demi Bagby and reposted by KNX News Radio, people can be seen scooping up cash from the ground. Authorities said when the truck doors popped open, bags of cash fell out and one bag broke open. According to the Washington Post, California Highway Patrol said that the truck was on its way from San Diego to a regional Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation office. Local California Highway Patrol officers said that taking the money is a crime, and anyone who took it must return it within 48 hours. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
Congressional Democrats aim to impose a new fee on methane emissions. It's in the House-passed Build Back Better bill and could be passed through the Senate as early as December. Proponents say this fee will help clean up pollution and rake in revenue to pay for other climate projects. But critics say it would lead to even higher prices on heating bills and at the pump. NTD's Melina Weiskup reports.
The new methane tax would slap a rising fee on emissions at oil and gas facilities, fines reaching up to $1,500 per ton by 2025.
I need to protect all of us from upheaval around the planet. And to do that, I believe we got to make polluters pay. We have a methane fee.
At the same time, the bill gives hundreds of millions in subsidies for companies that take steps to reduce emissions.
The more you reduce carbon emissions, the greater your tax savings.
Democrats and experts who support the proposal say it discourages pollution while helping the economy. One study by Jeffrey Rissman at Energy Innovation reports that the methane fee could increase gross domestic product, or GDP, by more than $250 billion between 2023 and 2050. However, Republicans say the fee would do more harm than good.
Theoretically, would higher taxes and increased fees and royalties cause the price of a commodity to go up?
Yes.
Thank you.
Critics argue that the new fees would lead oil and gas industries to send the price increases down to the consumer, resulting in even higher heating bills and gas prices. The Energy Secretary, when asked specifically about the potential for higher prices being passed to consumers, dodged the question, saying, quote, "I think it will incentivize the gas industry to do what they need to do, which is to tighten up. Oil and gas producers have pushed back, saying the extra tax is not needed because methane emissions are already regulated, and America is now leading the world in emission reductions." Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai re-emerged over the weekend. Her whereabouts have been a matter of international concern for weeks after she alleged that a top Chinese official had sexually assaulted her. But Peng's return is raising even more questions.
Chinese tennis star Peng Shuai re-emerged on Sunday amid questions related to her whereabouts and safety. But media reports about her are still subject to censorship inside China. In a video call on Sunday, Peng said that she's safe and well at her home in Beijing and asked that her privacy be respected. This, according to the International Olympic Committee. The IOC says its president, Thomas Bach, spoke to Peng for 30 minutes. Their video call was reportedly joined by 2 other individuals, including a Chinese sports official. The IOC did not publicly release the video. Human rights group Amnesty International is warning International Olympic Committee to be wary of the situation.
They should be extremely careful not to participate in any whitewash of possible human rights violations.
Akkad says China's state-run media has a track record of fabricating statements or forcing testimonies shortly after people go missing.
In the past, we have seen various similar cases where people had no option but to say what they had been told to. The call between the IOC and Peng Shuai is hardly convincing that Peng Shuai has full and genuine freedom of expression, liberty, security, and movement.
Peng's chat with the IOC wasn't her only reappearance. She also attended a tennis tournament in Beijing. She was spotted in photos published by tennis tournament China Open, the event's organizer. The editor-in-chief of Chinese state-run newspaper Global Times, He Xijin, shared footage of the tournament on Twitter. In it, Peng can be seen among guests at the Fila Kids Junior Tennis Challenger Finals, wearing a dark blue jacket and white trousers. Global Times is one of Beijing's most important media mouthpieces outside China. Peng, a former doubles world champion, had not been seen or heard from publicly since November 2nd. That's after she accused China's former vice premier, Zhang Gaoli, of coercing her into sex, noting the two later had an on-off consensual relationship. Neither Zhang nor the Chinese government have commented on Peng's allegation. Her post on Chinese social media was quickly deleted. The topic was also blocked from China's heavily censored internet. On Saturday night, He Xijin posted another video of Peng at a popular restaurant in downtown Beijing. The restaurant's manager, Zhao Hongmei, confirmed Peng's appearance there to Reuters on Sunday. World tennis bodies remain unconvinced. The Women's Tennis Association explained, "It was good to see Peng Shuai in recent videos," but added, "The clips don't alleviate or address concerns about her well-being and ability to communicate without censorship or coercion." The association also clarified that the video does not change its call for a full, fair, and transparent investigation without censorship into her allegation of sexual assault. The WTA had earlier threatened to pull tournaments out of China over Peng's disappearance.
So far, Chinese media has not reported on Peng's accusation against the former top Chinese official. Likewise, outlets inside China have not acknowledged her reappearance. That's despite the Global Times having posted about it on Twitter, which is banned inside China. What's more, China has blocked broadcast signals during reports about the tennis star, one from CNN and another from a Japanese outlet. And former President Trump continues to endorse candidates, some of whom will challenge members of their own party in next year's primaries. One of Trump's recent endorsements is meant to unseat a Michigan congressman who voted to impeach him. NTD's Miguel Moreno has that story.
Former Trump administration official John Gibbs plans to run against Republican Congressman Peter Meijer in next year's primary election. In a press release last week, former President Donald Trump endorsed Gibbs, calling Meijer a rhino and a terrible representative of the Republican Party. Rhino means Republican in name only. Trump didn't say why he denounced Meijer in this way, but Congressman Meijer was one of the 10 Republicans who voted to impeach Trump on January 13th.
Are you only running against Congressman Meijer because he voted to impeach President Trump?
Well, you have to wonder where someone's heart is when they do something like vote to impeach the most popular leader of our party, and even of many Americans not in the Republican Party in recent memory. I think it shows that that person really is out of touch with what it takes to clean up our country, to drain the swamp, so to speak, to return power to the people. So I do think that one reason in and of itself speaks volumes. People feel like they were kicked in the gut by having someone that they voted for to represent them backstab the one person that they felt was in there trying to change things.
Meijer blames Trump for January 6th, accusing the former president of fomenting the chaos that manifested at the Capitol. He says this is why he voted to impeach the former president. It's unclear how many of Meijer's constituents are unhappy with his vote, but the majority of his district voted for Trump in the 2020 election. We reached out to Congressman Meijer for comment, but we haven't heard back. Besides the impeachment issue, Gibbs says he's concerned about Meijer's support for speeding up the resettling of Afghan refugees in the United States. Like Trump, Gibbs is an America First proponent. He opposes what he calls aggressive medical mandates, saying they violate a person's freedom of choice. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
And former President Trump was awarded an honorary 9th degree black belt from South Korean martial arts organization Kukkiwon, also known as World Taekwondo Headquarters. The president of Kukkiwon visited Trump at Mar-a-Lago last weekend and bestowed Trump with the certificate and a set of Taekwondo wear. Trump responded, "I think Taekwondo is magnificent martial art for self-defense." He added that he will wear the Taekwondo suit in Congress if he makes it back to the White House. And that's the same White House that's getting ready for the holiday season. First Lady Jill Biden today received the White House Christmas tree. This year's tree came all the way from North Carolina. Let's take a look.
This year's official White House Christmas tree is an 18.5-foot tall Fraser fir. It traveled several hundred miles from Peak Farms in Jefferson, North Carolina.
Look how beautiful this is.
How do you like the tree, Madam First Lady?
It's beautiful. It's magnificent, actually.
The White House's superintendent of grounds and the White House garden supervisor personally selected the tree earlier this year. They traveled to Peak Farms and selected the tree from the winners of the National Christmas Tree Contest.
It's like the horses. Aren't they so cool?
The First Lady's office said in a statement, Jill Biden is receiving the tree with a D.C. Army National Guard family to honor all the National Guard families who are activated and spending these holidays apart.
Happy holidays. Have a great Thanksgiving. I'll see you next week when we do the Christmas reveal.
What's your message to the armed forces celebrating the holidays?
Oh, be safe. Have a happy, healthy holiday. Thank
The
you.
tradition of decorating the White House with a Christmas tree dates back to 1889 under President Benjamin Harrison. And the tradition of the First Lady receiving the tree dates back to 1966. The Christmas tree this year will be placed in the Blue Room of the White House, and it will be decorated with a theme to be unveiled after the Thanksgiving holiday.
Hitting the road or taking a flight this week for Thanksgiving? This holiday is expected to be one of the busiest we've seen in a long time. NTD's Iris Tao spoke with AAA for some handy holiday travel tips.
So we're telling folks, you're going to have a lot of company on the roads this Thanksgiving.
Andrew Gross is the national spokesperson at AAA. The travel group says more than 53 million Americans are expected to travel this week, a surge nearing pre-pandemic levels. AAA expects 90% of those travelers, about 48 million, to travel by car.
We have found that no matter how high gasoline prices go, once someone has decided they're going to take a trip, they take the trip.
The current gas price is hovering near its highest point since 2014. But with many eager to reunite after skipping family gatherings last November and December, Gross says people will figure out a way to budget in for the higher cost.
Maybe they won't eat out as much. Maybe they'll look for more free activities, but they're definitely going to go.
If you don't want to be stuck in traffic, though, avoid leaving Wednesday afternoon. Shoot for Tuesday or Wednesday morning.
If you're only going, say, 50 to 75 miles and you don't mind driving Thursday morning, Thanksgiving Day, that's also a good time to go.
And for those who are flying, expect long lines at the airport. AAA expects 4.2 million people to travel by plane this Thanksgiving holiday, an 80% increase over last year, the highest single-year jump on record.
Listen to that parent in your head. Get to the airport early, at least 2 hours early.
The TSA says it expects to screen 20 million air passengers this week. Iris Tao, NTD News.
Up next, parents in New York are using their children's footwear in an innovative way to voice their concerns. And Thanksgiving celebrations are starting early this year. We get a look at one of Pennsylvania's Thanksgiving Day parades. That and more here on NTD News. School children in the state of New York might soon have to be vaccinated against COVID-19. A group of parents held a silent protest against the proposed bill. NTD's Arian Pazdar has more.
In an attempt to protest a proposed vaccine mandate for school children in New York, parents could drop off a pair of shoes for every child that won't get the shot. The shoes were meant to be displayed at a local school overnight until 9:30 the next morning to show how many children would be affected by the mandate.
We tied them to our school fence on one of our main roads. On the preface that we would come back in the morning, we got clearance, we would come back in the morning, we would gather the shoes, and the shoes were going to be donated once we finished putting them at the Dennison building in Hoffa. Our shoes were actually cut down at 6 o'clock in the morning, bagged up in garbage bags and thrown in the back of the high school.
Because the shoes were cut down, the organizers moved them to a different location at an outdoor plaza.
Our community kind of got pretty upset that the schools wouldn't allow us to just do a peaceful protest of just tying shoes to the school. A lot of people on both aisles got upset that they were cutting down the shoes when we told them they were simply going to be donated.
Claudia says that parents should be allowed to decide whether their children get vaccinated or not. Advocates of vaccine mandates for school children say vaccinated people are less likely to spread the virus if they're infected. They say this will help end the pandemic, so they believe everyone should get the shot. Arian Pastar, NTD News, New York.
In the Mayfair-Holmesburg area of Philadelphia, Thanksgiving celebrations have already begun with the neighborhood's 44th annual Thanksgiving Day Parade. NTD's Chen Yun takes us there.
More than 100 participants joined in one of this year's Thanksgiving Day parades. The celebration took place Sunday in northern Philadelphia.
I see a lot of people out on the street. It's great to be back for this Mayfair-Holmesburg Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Last year's parade was canceled due to the pandemic, but this holiday season, the city is coming to life. During the parade, we asked people what Thanksgiving means to them.
Meaning for me is just praising God for everything that we have been blessed with throughout the year. That's what Thanksgiving means. It's about family coming together. It's about showing love to one another.
It's freedom of religion for America, and the thanks we give to God for all the good things that America has.
There's so much to be thankful for, but above all, it's our ability to come back as a nation, as a world, actually, from the grips of the pandemic.
We're here, we're together, we have our family, and we have our freedom. I hope they have a very happy Thanksgiving and they enjoy their families.
More Thanksgiving celebrations are expected to come as the holiday approaches. Chenny Wu, NTD News.
Coming up, the University of California system will no longer require standardized tests as part of its admission process. Current students weigh in on the decision. Candidate for Texas Governor Democrat Beto O'Rourke comments on President Biden's immigration laws. He says the White House shows a lack of urgency and echoes campaign platforms he'd prioritize if elected. And California's governor visited a vaccination site to promote the new availability of COVID-19 booster shots for adults. Find out more in just a moment here on NTD News.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the CEO of MyPillow. Cancel culture has not only affected myself and MyPillow, but millions of you out there. My employees and I want to personally thank each and every one of you for all of your support. At MyPillow, we not only have pillows, but we have hundreds of products, including my new slippers, bathrobes, sleepwear, and my new beds. We're offering the best gifts ever for the best prices ever. For example, we have this exclusive offer on the standard size MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now only $19.98 with your promo code. We also have the queen size MyPillows, regularly $79.98, now only $24.98 with your promo code. And we have the king size, regularly $89.98, now only $29.98 with your promo code. So go to mypillow.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to receive this exclusive offer.
Last Friday, this guy stole a package right off my porch.
Or at least that's what would have happened if I didn't have my Vivint Smart Security System. Instead, this is what really happened. System detects package. Thief walks up. System scares thief. Thief runs away. If your doorbell can't do this, you need a Vivint Smart Security System. Call 844-544-0866 today.
See China before communism. Behold a splendid culture reborn, filled with beauty, majesty, and a powerful message of hope. Come see the performance that has touched the hearts of millions. Live on stage. Get tickets now at shenyun.com.
Notorious union boss Jimmy Hoffa went missing in 1975. He's believed to have been killed by the mafia. And now the FBI may have finally found his remains. Here's NTD's Andrew Thomas with more.
It's been a mysterious, decades-long journey to find the remains of former Teamsters boss Jimmy Hoffa. The search has turned to a site near a former New Jersey landfill that sits below an elevated highway.
It is about 100 yards from where the PJP landfill once was. And in December of 1975, the FBI searched the landfill looking for Jimmy Hoffa. It was really their first real theory as to where Hoffa was.
The FBI says it obtained a search warrant to conduct a site survey underneath the Pulaski Skyway. The work was done in late October. Hoffa was last seen in 1975 when he was supposed to meet with reputed mob figures at a suburban Detroit restaurant. The latest effort appears to be tied to interviews given by a man named Frank Coppola. He says his father, Paul Coppola, explained how he buried Hoffa's remains in a barrel in Jersey City in 1975.
His father had buried Hoffa in this 8 to 15 foot hole, and then in a plain drum, 55-gallon drum, which is how he was shipped from Detroit.
Both Coppolas are deceased. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
The college application season is approaching. As students are thinking about what schools they want to attend, the University of California school system recently announced it will no longer require standardized tests.
I'm here at the University of California, Santa Cruz. It's one of the 9 universities that will now no longer require standardized tests as part of the admissions process. The University of California Board of Regents announced on November 18th that it will permanently remove such tests. The board does not plan to adopt any alternatives in the foreseeable future. Back in May 2020, the board originally planned to remove standardized testing and to find an alternative to replace the ACT and SAT. Now, however, the board plans to keep exams out of the admissions requirements altogether. The board said the move will promote educational equity and quality. During the Thursday board meeting, Michael Brown, the UC provost, said that the UC system will also strengthen its relationship to K-12 schools to help students plan a better path to college. The UC system is the latest to join a growing number of universities that are going test-free or test-optional in their admissions processes. Reporting in Santa Cruz, California, Cynthia Kai, NTD News.
California's Governor Gavin Newsom visited a San Francisco vaccination site today and announced a new effort to encourage Californians to get the newly approved COVID booster shot. NTD's Jason Blair has the details.
California Governor Gavin Newsom visited the Unido and Salud vaccination site in San Francisco. Newsom's visit comes after his office announced on Saturday that the Western States Scientific Safety Review Work Group is now recommending COVID boosters for anyone over 18.
We're here promoting a new PSA, culturally competent PSA that we're putting out, and dozens of new CBO partnerships like this all throughout the state of California in an effort to make sure we reach out and close that divide.
Newsom said that 17% of the boosters given so far have been in the Latino community. He said that government programs are now targeting that community.
We are promoting the importance, particularly in the Latino community, to get boosters and to get vaccinated.
An expert told the Epoch Times that he's concerned about relying on a COVID booster program, especially if multiple boosters end up being needed to make the vaccines effective.
We've never vaccinated people and boosted them multiple times a year. And we don't know what is going to happen because the vaccine developers didn't study it.
Alexander added that there hasn't been enough research if things continue. Current FDA and CDC guidelines recommend vaccines for people 5 or older and boosters for adults 18 and older. Jason Blair, NTD News, San Francisco.
Texas Democrat Beto O'Rourke announced plans to join the state's 2022 gubernatorial race last week. In a Sunday interview, he said President Biden shows a lack of urgency on the crisis at the southern border. That's after getting asked whether he would invite the president to assist in his campaign. Let's take a look.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
In a Sunday interview on CNN's State of the Union show, Texas gubernatorial candidate Beto O'Rourke signaled distance from the White House in next year's state campaign. That's amid poll numbers showing just 35% of Texans supports President Biden. The former congressman criticized the president for what he called a lack of urgency in pushing to revamp Trump-era immigration laws.
I don't think we've seen enough urgency when it comes to rewriting our immigration laws to match the needs and the reality that we see, especially in our border communities.
He also blasted current Governor Greg Abbott, accusing the Republican of taking advantage of the border crisis.
We also expect more of our governor, who's using the border right now as a photo opportunity, scapegoating and vilifying immigrants, asking Texans to, quote, defend themselves and take matters into their own hands from this invasion, as he describes it.
O'Rourke announced his candidacy for governor last Monday. He set his sights on becoming the first Democrat in 3 decades to win a statewide race in Texas. His interview came after Mexican authorities reported finding 600 legal migrants hidden in 2 boxcars traveling through the Mexican state of Veracruz last Friday.
This campaign in Texas is not going to be about Joe Biden. It's not going to be about Donald Trump. It's not going to be about anyone from outside of our state.
Over the weekend, O'Rourke also reiterated his pledge on Texas gun control. It echoed an earlier statement he made during a Houston debate as he ran for president in 2020. O'Rourke said he will stand firm on that view if he's elected governor.
Coming up, a South Korean microchip maker was barred by Washington from shipping high-tech equipment to its factory in China. The U.S. Trade Representative said that action was out of legitimate concerns. And over 40,000 protesters took to the streets of Vienna on Saturday over COVID-19 restrictions. They rallied against the government imposing a new lockdown this week and Europe's first vaccination mandate from next year. South Korea is caught in the middle of a growing rivalry between the U.S. and China. Washington recently stopped a South Korean microchip maker from shipping advanced equipment to its factory in China. U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai says the move was made out of legitimate concerns about the risks to national security. Here's more.
During an interview with South Korean broadcaster CBS, which aired on Monday, Ambassador Katherine Tai was asked about the U.S. banning a South Korean chip maker from installing advanced equipment at its factory in China.
I am aware of this issue, and I'm also aware that the technology in question is highly sensitive and that there are legitimate concerns about the risks to national security in terms of where this technology ends up.
The company, SK Hynix, was planning to ship some extreme ultraviolet lithography machines to its factory in Wuxi, China. The machines are used to create the most advanced microchips, but Washington barred the move. Tai said that it's important for the U.S. to work with its partners and allies, in particular on matters of shared economic and national security.
I also want to acknowledge that we consider Korea to be one of our most important national security partners.
Tai added that when it comes to national security, which includes military and defense concerns, other items could also come under such regulations down the road. SK Hynix CEO Lee Saw-hee said earlier that his company will respond to the issue wisely while cooperating with interested parties. Tai was on a 4-day trip to South Korea since last Thursday. During the visit, she stressed cooperation with Seoul to address global supply chain challenges, especially in the semiconductor sector. Now, the Biden administration is planning to set up a new Asian economic framework with allies and friendly nations. Tai had already visited Japan last week, and starting Monday, she'll be in New Delhi, India.
And over to Europe. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced today that starting from next year, new homes built in England will be required to have an electric vehicle charging point. The government says the move will see 145,000 new charging points installed each year. The regulation comes in the run-up to 2030, when the sale of new petrol and diesel cars is expected to end in the UK. NTD's Malcolm Hudson has more.
All new homes, supermarkets and workplaces will be required to have electric vehicle charging points following a new law the Prime Minister announced on Monday.
We're regulating so as to require new homes and buildings to have EV charging points, with another 145,000 charging points to be installed thanks to these regulations.
Johnson spoke at the Confederation of British Industries conference. At the moment, the UK has about 25,000 charging points. This boost to the charging point rollout is supposed to pave the way for the ban on petrol and diesel car sales in 2030, when new infrastructure will be needed for electric vehicles. Johnson said that when he was Mayor of London, EV charging points were not yet a success.
But 10 years after that, the tipping point has come, hasn't it? UK sales of EVs are now increasing at 70% a year. And in 2030, we're ending the market for new hydrocarbon ICEs, internal combustion engine vehicles, ahead of other European countries. And our companies are responding.
Parliament will debate these changes to building regulations next month, and they are set to come into force in the middle of next year. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
Over 40,000 protesters took to the streets of Vienna on Saturday over COVID-19 restrictions. They were rallying against the government imposing a new lockdown this week and Europe's first vaccination mandate from next year. The Epoch Times was there to find out what people had to say. Here's NTD's Eddie Aitken with more.
On Monday, Austria became the first country in Western Europe to reimpose a lockdown since COVID-19 vaccines were rolled out. Officials say it's necessary to bring down the number of new daily infections and the number of virus patients in intensive care. The government has also announced it will make it compulsory to get inoculated as of February, the first COVID-19 vaccine mandate in Europe. Around 66% of the population are vaccinated. On Saturday, over 40,000 people in Vienna came out to protest against the return of severe restrictions and the mandate.
The government should stop all measures and let us go about our lives as normal as we always have. We went through flu epidemics. Yes, that's just the way it was. The hospitals were full, and when winter was over, they were empty again. I'm not against targeted vaccination of risk groups. People should do that if they want to. But I think it's crazy how the pandemic has been dragged down to all age groups, even though people are statistically not affected.
I feel that we just need to have a referendum with the population, talk about it, and come with a common solution. I don't know which solution we can come up with, but just imposing and coming up with laws that tell you that you have to be vaccinated is not enough.
There is the tendency of kind of a hate speech against people who are not vaccinated, which doesn't have any ground medically or scientifically. So I think it's a very serious and alarming development.
I'm in favor of rethinking our system altogether. We live in a sham democracy where we're allowed to make a choice every 5 years, and then the ladies and gentlemen in government do what they want.
I stand up for our basic and human rights because we are still human beings, whether vaccinated or unvaccinated.
So, if a lot of people in Austria take to the streets, protest, boycott, stop working, then Germany will think very carefully about whether it goes down that path. I think it's a kind of test that you start now with the smaller country, see if you can enforce it, and if it fails in Austria, it will fail in many other countries in Europe.
The Austrian government says the renewed lockdown will be in place for at least 10 days, but restrictions will remain for the unvaccinated beyond that. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
And not only Austria saw demonstrations over the weekend, protests against COVID restrictions took place in several European capitals. Some governments are planning to make vaccinations mandatory for health workers. Others want to ban unvaccinated people from entering public buildings. NTD's Earl Rhodes has the story.
Protesters took to the streets in several European countries on the weekend to demonstrate against COVID-19 related restrictions and vaccine mandates. Governments in Europe started to ramp restrictions in recent days in response to what they say is a surge of new cases. In the Netherlands, hundreds of people marched through the streets of Amsterdam on Saturday. The country is now in a 3-week partial lockdown with a curfew for hospitality venues. The Dutch government also plans to exclude those with a negative test result from the country's vaccine passport.
This policy makes a lot of conflicts between the people. It makes a lot of war on the micro and the macro level.
Another protester said the riots in Rotterdam has nothing to do with them. Protests in the Dutch city turned violent on several nights, with police opening fire at rioters on Friday.
We are peaceful, and the organisers here in Amsterdam have shown that to be peaceful as well over the months. And it's an absolute shame what happened in Rotterdam last night.
About 35,000 people took part in a demonstration in central Brussels on Sunday.
Yeah, basically because we want our freedom, and being injected by something that's not tested well, being not able to work where you want to work, to be where you want to be, that's not where we stand for.
Belgium tightened its coronavirus restrictions on Wednesday. It requires people to use face masks in places such as restaurants, where they are already required to show a COVID pass.
You know, it's discrimination. People get discriminated because the QR code, you know. People who are vaccinated cannot enter some buildings because they only had one vaccine.
The Belgian government plans to make vaccinations compulsory for health workers. In Croatia, around 15,000 people demonstrated in the capital Zagreb on Saturday. From Monday, only people with COVID passports can enter government and public buildings in the country.
I came to support all the people who oppose COVID passports because it is actually a measure that divides us into citizens and non-citizens, and it leads to great discrimination, even towards totalitarianism.
In Italy, thousands of people gathered in central Rome to demonstrate against green pass certificates required at workplaces, on public transport and other venues. And on Saturday evening, hundreds of people marched in the North Macedonian capital, Skopje, to protest against the government's plan to make vaccinations compulsory for health workers and other government employees. Earl Rhodes, NTD News.
Coming up, a rare manuscript by Albert Einstein will go under the hammer at Christie's auction house in Paris. It contains calculations that led to the theory of relativity, one of the most important discoveries of the 20th century. That and more on NTD News.
You worked hard for your money. You invest in stability for your retirement and your family's future, to build and leave them with something greater. The next unprecedented financial crisis, political misstep, or unstable government can depreciate it all away. It was called the gold standard for a reason, the financial preservation of tomorrow. Diversify your assets against inflation, market volatility, and the unknown with real money. Hedge your wealth with the purest form of money, physical gold and silver. Because any currency printed on paper can be manipulated. What's backing up your IRA? Do what you need to do right now to be prepared with the Reagan Gold Group. Visit now, rggusakit.com, or call us at 866-912-1384. Receive up to $2,500 in free silver coins and a free safe with your new precious metals IRA. Call now.
A rare manuscript by physicist Albert Einstein will be up for auction tomorrow in Paris. It's expected to fetch between $2 million and $3.5 million. The manuscript contains preparatory work for his theory of relativity. NTD's David Vives has more.
A manuscript co-authored by legendary physicist Albert Einstein will go on auction in Paris on Tuesday. It depicts the inception of the general theory of relativity, one of Einstein's most notable discoveries. The document has an estimated value of between $2 and $3 million, according to Christie's auction house. The 54-page document, called the Einstein's Besso Manuscript, is one of two surviving working documents that record the birth of Einstein's theory.
It's a document that shows the birth of the general theory of relativity, which is probably the most important discovery of Albert Einstein's career and one of the most important theories in the history of modern physics.
In search of scientific knowledge.
The general theory of relativity was developed by Einstein between 1907 and 1915. It states that gravity is a warping of space and that massive objects can warp space and time around it. Vincent Beloy, a books and manuscripts expert at Christie's, said the manuscript challenges Einstein's popular image as an absolute genius, because it shows that even one of the world's most intelligent scientists made mistakes.
Einstein makes errors in this manuscript, and that, I think, makes it even greater in a way, because we see the persistence, the thought that was in the process of being built, that is being corrected and redirected.
The theory of relativity forever changed how scientists understood the universe and shaped modern physics.
And staying in Paris, the Champs-Élysées Avenue was lit up in red for the Christmas season on Sunday. The mayor of Paris was at the ceremony. Hundreds turned out for the occasion, contrasting to last year when France observed a lockdown against the spread of COVID-19. At the time, only a handful of officials turned up for a ceremony broadcast live on the internet. The Champs-Élysées is considered by the French to be the most beautiful avenue of the world. It spreads over 1 mile and is lined with stores and restaurants. At the top stands the Arc de Triomphe, a landmark monument. And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox.
Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Did you know YouTube only keeps selected videos on its platform? So if you want to make sure you get the full picture, just subscribe to our newsletter. Go to newsletter.ntd.com and sign up.